Welcome to the Building Newfoundland and Labrador podcast, dedicated to exploring the interesting journeys of the people in the provincial construction industry. Presented by the Newfoundland and Labrador Construction Association, produced by Gale Force Winds. Join us as we chat with the inspirational individuals that ensure the continued growth of the construction industry and the province of Newfoundland and Labrador.
Building Newfoundland and Labrador podcast. Here we are at Build Expo 2023, day 2, and already the excitement is kicking up on the trade show floor. I'm Alan Dale. With me as always, my good buddy Jerry Carew. Keith, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
My name is Keith Power. I'm an apprenticeship program officer with apprenticeship and trade certification for the Department of Immigration, Population Growth and Skills.
That's a hell of a mouthful there, Keith.
I wish I had the same number of zeros on the end of my paycheck as the length of that title.
Well, that's quite a title. But Keith, you didn't start there. Tell us a little bit about your journey to get to that job.
Well, to be quite honest, I'm an automotive service technician by trade, Red Seal certified, which means I'm recognized right across the country, interprovincially. How I got into that: as a kid, I would take my father's car on Fridays and I would drive it, and then I would have to fix it Sundays so that he could go to work on Monday.
Is that right?
So basically that's it. But I've had mentors along the way. There was a guy that lived just, probably a mile away, not even a mile away, who had I'll call it a recycling business. Back then it was called a scrapyard. So, we'd go up there and tinker at cars and fix cars and all that stuff.
How old were you at this point?
Oh, gee whiz. I'm going to say I was probably 15, 16.
That's young.
Yeah. Anyway, shout out to him, Henny Sankroy.
Right.
I guess that's where it really got started. And then, you go through high school, and trades wasn't promoted in high school back then, and it has improved. I'll say that. There's still a long way to go. Mm-hmm. But when someone like myself finished in June of that year, 1985, I really had no idea what to do. University was being promoted. Get good marks so you can go to MUN and all that stuff, which is great, but it just wasn't my forte. Anyway, I did an electronics course back then called the College of Trades and Technology, and I did that because my uncle, who's an electronics technician with the university actually, I just got interested in electronics through him. I did that. I started a second year of electronics. It just wasn't my thing. Dropped out, did odd jobs. Finally, how did I get into? Oh, my mother registered me for an automotive technology program at the College of North Atlantic, and did.
It's a good turn right out of the gate there.
Yeah.
Your mother registered you. That's fantastic.
And I guess a shout out to mothers.
Yes.
Because young fellows, when they lose their way like that, I'm just trying to think. Yeah, so I registered and did the 3-year thing. Did my apprenticeship at Toyota Plaza here in St. John's. Achieved my Red Seal certification. Then I branched out into running a shop and becoming a service manager, and then a fixed operations manager. So the fixed operations manager in the car business oversees all the parts and service departments and any operations that go on there.
Is that still with Toyota?
No, I branched out. Well, I did at Toyota in Clarenville, actually. I did that there for a couple of years. I was actually working on the floor as a technician, and the management requested that I try the service manager position.
Right.
Anyway, I said, well, I'm a tradesperson. I'm not used to. So anyway, I said the agreement was if I don't like it, I'll go back on the floor, so to speak, or if I'm not doing a good job, then I go back on the floor. Well, I did both jobs for a while, And many a late evening, because the shop closes at 4:30, but then the paperwork continues till probably 6:30 or 7. Warranty claims, stuff like that. Anyway, I moved around to a Chrysler dealer in Nova Scotia, back to a Hyundai dealer in Gander, Honda dealer in Gander. Then I was offered a replacement position as an instructor at the College of North Atlantic in Gander. Once that ended, moved to St. John's, took that position. Then this position arrived out of Grand Falls, and I've been doing this for the last 16 years.
You're well positioned. You got quite a bit of experience to be leading that, right?
Well, I'll always
the
say
province.
I'm not an expert. I'll never say I'm an expert, but I like to think I have a good grasp of coming from the point of application to the point of certification.
We'll call you an expert.
Yeah.
Right.
No, but I mean, you're very well positioned, obviously, to take on this role. Tell me what the province's vision for this is right now.
Well, really, we need to, and we're trying to engage more young people and promote the trades in high schools as an option. Because, to be quite honest with you, I was accepted for MUN, and it just wasn't my thing. Just didn't interest me, and I always say, the phrase I've coined, is a tradesperson takes their information through their hands. An academic takes their information through their eyes. I was a hands type person. Simple as that. So to engage the young people, we have a pilot project now called Youth Apprenticeship. We're just starting out this year with, I think it's 6 schools and up to, I believe, stand to be corrected, but I believe 10 applicants. So through Skills Canada, and we're reaching out to certain schools. I believe Ascension Collegiate and Holyrood is one, St. Kevin's and the Goulds from the Goulds. And I believe Holy Spirit High in CBS, and anyway, a couple of more schools, where we're going to try and make that option of trades available.
Right.
And it's great because at least if a kid's in school and they had that option, at least they know about it, whereas opposed to previously not so much.
Right.
I can't say it's not promoted. It is promoted. I've run into just a lady about a month ago at the College of North Atlantic, Skills Canada, and she's really pushing trades at a school in Mount Pearl. So fantastic, bring it on. We need more. The country is crying for tradespeople.
Yeah, you hear the Premier talk yesterday about all the things that are happening in Newfoundland and how that directly impacts the construction industry largely. There is a big need right here at home for skilled tradespeople. This is a great initiative to kind of go deep into the school system to introduce it.
Yeah, and it's an obscene necessity, not just for the sake of new construction, but the old infrastructure that's been in the ground. Let's say that for the steam fitter, pipe fitters, and trades like that, and the construction trades, that old infrastructure is starting to wear out.
Right.
I mean, you've seen Water Street just recently, in the last couple of years, being dug up to replace that. So the need for tradespeople is it's rampant.
And it's a type of, I mean, these are jobs, these are good paying jobs.
Well, you hit the nail on the head, because one thing, like, if you look at the downside, we're short on tradespeople, what are we going to do and all that? But on the upside, I say the tradespeople that are out there are being paid very well for the simple fact that it's a supply and demand world.
Right.
It's a great living. I mean, I always look at myself, I consider myself successful in this position, to be able to take, again, a young person from the point of application to certification.
Right.
And it's a national certification.
Yeah.
Keith, it's an interesting conversation. I've got one boy who's in business school, but I have a 15-year-old who's like, Dad, I'm not sure university's for me. And I can tell you, he is filled with anxiety because of it. And I said, listen here, my friend, there's skills trades out there, and he's really good with, he likes wood and working with hammers and all that stuff.
Yep.
I see that young man being in skilled trades.
He needs to be just exposed or introduced
to it,
to it somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
And he may say hammers. He may like a hammer is often associated with carpentry. He may not have any interest in carpentry. He may have an interest in welding. you know, or electrician, or any of the trades. There's a wide variety out there. Heavy equipment operator is another trade that's in big demand. I have a nephew that goes to work in British Columbia, and he is making.
Lives here?
Lives here, and he's traveling back and forth, and he is making
enough money to raise a family off.
Yep. Well, actually, his wedding is in this fall.
Yeah.
They're in the process of buying a house and getting all that done.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
you know, it's an exciting time, and you're right. It's all about introducing young people to these paths, right? To show them that there's alternatives, there's positions at the end of all of this, all of those questions that they might have. I like the approach that you're taking, and I love how you take them from application to certification, and it is significant. When you hit that red seal, it's an important thing. Tell me the importance of the Newfoundland and Labrador Construction Association in introducing that largely into the industry.
well, they're the people on the ground, so to speak. So, you know, we're going to work with them more efficiently, I'll say, in the future. Like myself and Ron have had great conversations, because a lot of people are unaware, for example, of what we have called a direct entry program. The mindset of kids in school now, high school or whatever, is that you finish in June and then you go do a course in September. And that's fine. You can either, again, go to university, junior studies, we called it years ago. I don't know what it's called now. But for the trades, there's a 9-month program. Typically, it's 9 months. They vary. But it's called a pre-employment. So the idea of that course is basically to introduce, like, let's say your son does a pre-employment program. If he's not actually used to using hand tools and things like that, that course introduces them to that and gives them the fundamentals.
Right.
So that when they do become employed, they do have an idea of what they're supposed to do. Anyway, that's not the only route. We have a thing called direct entry, which again is not a well-known thing. But let's say an employer hires someone off the street, so to speak, and that person has an aptitude for the trades, and they're showing progress and initiative and a good work ethic and the whole thing, then that employer, if they want to invest in that person and have a future tradesperson, they could indenture that person as an apprentice, called direct entry. So then we would register that person as an apprentice, because they're coming directly from industry. That's why we call them direct entry.
Right.
And basically, the employer would have to have a journey person, because the journey person trains the apprentice.
Right.
So once that happens, the only really requirement is completion of high school or equivalency, basically similarly to doing
Right.
a university program. Once registered, they would begin to work.
Yeah.
We would issue the apprentice a logbook, have the conversation with the employer. There's a pay scale associated with that. Once they accumulate so many hours of work experience training, this is not just work experience, I emphasize it's training,
Right.
we would issue what's called a class call. And we would arrange that, basically, and through funding, through immigration, population growth and skills, we pay for the classes. The employer issues a layoff to the apprentice. Now, that's not a shortage of work.
Right.
Shortage of work, when an employer lays someone off due to the shortage of work, the code with Service Canada is the letter A. Mm-hmm. An apprentice gets the letter J. That tells Service Canada that this person is an apprentice.
Right.
So Service Canada tells us that whenever all the letters come in, whenever the J comes in, it gets priority. That's my understanding. So that person's claim starts. So the apprentice receives EI benefits while in school. They do their program, which we pay for. When they complete, their level of apprenticeship usually changes. They go back to the employer, they get a pay raise,
Wow.
work again for probably another year, and then we do that until, depending on work availability and so forth, 4 to 5 years. At the end of the process, when they meet the eligibility requirements to write the interprovincial exam and pass, they're Red Seal certified.
Wow.
So getting back to your original question, because I have a bad tendency to go off on tangents, through the Newfoundland and Labrador Construction Association, they are able to tap into that resource, at
Right.
the ground level, so to speak. because there are many a potential apprentice out there that is unaware of this.
Right.
I mean, we don't get me wrong, it's not a totally uninformed thing. I mean, anyone in my position, we're constantly talking to employers and we're constantly promoting this type of thing. But they're a good partner. Any one of their members, obviously, is like direct contact, so can only help.
100%. That sounds like a great pathway into the industry. It sounds like you guys are on the right path to making this visible to a broader audience, young people, and maybe newcomers and everything, that this is a pathway and there's a genuine need out there. Thanks very much for doing what you do. We certainly appreciate you being on the show.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
The rest of it looks pretty good, so I'm interested in seeing all the attractions.
Good.
And it's going to be a good day.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you for tuning in to the Building Newfoundland and Labrador podcast, presented by the Newfoundland and Labrador Construction Association, produced by Gale Force Winds.